Hey Preds Nation, seeing as there won't be another Preds fan reaction video until at least December 27th, and we'll wait to see if that changes, I thought I would release another Preds history video, a little walk down memory lane to hold you over until then. This idea came to me for this list barely 2 weeks back when the Preds won that game in Long Island before the game could even get close to overtime. So, with the help of hockeyreference.com, listed in reverse order from furthest to closest of having 60 minutes fully being played, here is the top 10 list of the latest scored in regulation Preds game-winning goals in franchise history. November 15th, 2011, the first of 3 from that season, the most from any season on this countdown. The Washington Capitals were in town, and I don't know how many in Preds Nation remember, but sandwiched between playing for the Panthers and then his final season in the NHL with the Penguins after playing for the Preds, Thomas Vokoun played a season for the Washington Capitals, and he played for them in this game. As for the game itself, it remained completely scoreless between the two teams after 40 minutes. Into the last quarter of the third period, in a game that seemed destined for overtime, Troy Brouwer and Martin Erat exchanged goals 28 seconds apart. Well, Colin Wilson was determined not to let that happen, and off of a pass from the man who tied the game, Martin Erat, Colin Wilson scored the winner past Thomas Vokoun with 24.3 seconds left to go in regulation, and the Preds ultimately won the game 3-1. November 8th, 2005, a season where the Preds started that year with 8 straight victories. They had come down to earth a little bit, winless in their last 5, including a terrible California road trip when the Edmonton Oilers showed up on their doorstep in their return home. Well, in this game, the Preds' struggles seemed to continue as they trailed the Oilers 1-0 after 40 minutes, but Martin Erat tied it early in the final frame, and Kimmo Timonen looked to give the Preds the lead for good with just under 2 minutes left to go in regulation. Well, Oiler Ryan Smith would tie the game at 2, just under a minute left to go in regulation, but the Preds were done with their losing streak, and Scott Hartnell, set up by former Preds captain Greg Johnson, would bury the winner past Jussi Markkanen with 22.5 seconds left to go in regulation, giving the Preds the 3-2 win. That victory definitely got the Preds back on the right track coming out of the 04-05 lockout, as it would propel the Preds to win 9 of their next 11 games. November 29th, 2007, the first of 2 appearances on this countdown from that season, and the first of 2 appearances from the player who would score the ultimate winning goal. In what would be a wild goal-filled affair at Scotiabank Place in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, the Preds led the Sens 3-2 after 2 periods. The Sens would tie the game early in the third, then the Preds would take a 5-3 lead before the Sens tied it late in the period with 46 seconds left, with the game tied at 5, seemingly destined for overtime. But at last, the Preds would get the victory for good, as with 22.2 seconds left to go in regulation time, Martin Erat, set up by J.P. Dumont, gave the Preds the 6-5 victory with the game-winning goal past Martin Gerber. January 31st, 2012, the Preds were on a 4-game winning streak coming into this game in St. Paul, Minnesota versus the Minnesota Wild. The Preds found themselves down 3-1 after 2, and were even down 4-1 a mere 16 seconds into the third and final frame, but they definitely weren't in any mood to be snapping their 4-game winning streak. Brandon Yip and then Patrick Hornquist would cut the Wild lead down to 4-3, and then with 3 minutes left to go in regulation, Mike Fisher would square this game again, all tied at 4. And before this game could even go to overtime, future Preds Captain Mike Fisher would answer the bell again, as with 21 seconds left to go in regulation, he would give the Preds the lead they wouldn't relinquish, giving the Preds the 5-4 victory. April 4th, 2019, in the Preds' second last game of the regular season, playoff spot already clinched, but they still had a chance at the division title, so they wanted to go into the playoffs with some momentum, striving for more. Playing the Vancouver Canucks that night, they were down 2-0 after one, giving up 2 power play goals. And they were still down 2-1 late into the third period as Nick Bonino would tie it. And before this game could get even a whiff of overtime, under a minute left to go in regulation, Philip Forsberg keeps the puck in from a Vancouver Canucks player who was trying to take it out, and he gets the puck over to Ryan Johansson, who sees Victor Arvidsson as he tries to pass it across, but inadvertently it goes in off of Troy Stetcher's stick past Jacob Markstrom into the Canucks net with 20.4 seconds left to go in regulation, giving the Preds the 3-2 win. November 8th, 2000. The Preds were only in their third season up until this point, so they still had their proverbial training wheels on, playing with much of their opening night roster from their expansion season. A simple game in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Who knew that would seem as the perfect locale for a last moment victory by this young up-and-coming Preds team. Tied at 1 after 1, the Preds would proceed to take a 3-1 lead early in the third period on goals by David Legwand and Scott Walker. Well, later in the third period, the Devils would tie the game at 3 on goals separated by only 26 seconds. And the game seemed destined for overtime until Ville Peltonen, then to Greg Johnson, set up Tom Fitzgerald with 16.8 seconds left to go in regulation, giving the Preds the 4-3 win. October 27th, 2007, the second goal from that season to appear on this list that the Preds scored late in a game. In a game where Preds goalie Dan Ellis would face his first penalty shot and allow his first penalty shot goal because former Preds defenseman Greg Zanin was to have been deemed to have covered up the puck in the crease, which is not allowed, and where future Preds player Olli Jokinen would tie the game at 3 on a 5-on-3 power play for the Florida Panthers, who the Preds were playing in this game. Before the game could reach conclusion of 60 minutes, tied at 3 with 13 seconds left to go in regulation, Jared Smithson would beat Thomas Vokoun, giving the Preds the 4-3 win. November 21st, 2001, the day before American Thanksgiving, Preds Nation would be sent home on a happy note to feast with their families as David Legwand was set up by Tom Fitzgerald with 11.5 seconds left to go in front of Preds Nation, and he beat Jocelyn Thibault to give the Preds a 4-3 win over the Chicago Blackhawks. December 9th, 2021, after Yakov Trenin had tied the game at 3 only 7 minutes prior, last few seconds of regulation ticking away, innocent play in the Islanders' zone as Roman Josi takes a shot from the blue line and it's tipped in by Eeli Tolvanen with 11.5 seconds left to go in regulation, giving the Preds a 4-3 win. The loss left Barry Trotz winless against his former team as Islanders coach, and he hasn't beaten the Preds since being let go by them after the 2013-14 season since March 18th, 2016, when he was still coaching the Washington Capitals. December 22nd, 2011, in a goal-filled game that took place just 3 days before Christmas, where Jeff Carter had a hat trick in the middle of the first period, where former Blue Jacket Ryan Johansson, yes, that Ryan Johansson, had 2 goals of his own. The Blue Jackets led the Preds 4-1 after 1, 5-2 in the second period. Well, the Preds came all the way back to tie it on a David Legwand power play goal just under 4 minutes left to go in the third period. Destined to wind up in overtime or the shootout, Martin Erat wasn't having any of that, and with 8.4 seconds left to go in regulation, after being set up by Ryan Suter, Martin Erat beats Curtis Sanford. Preds win the game 6-5. Curtis Sanford allowing all 6 Predator goals. So there you have it. The top 10 latest in regulation game-winning goals scored in Preds history. With any luck, either this season or next season, this list will be out of date with the joy this team can provide this fan base. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. As always, click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. You can find my social media by clicking on the channel name. Tell all your friends about Redemption. And Preds Hockey, please come back soon, or else I will be forced to come up with more ideas like this about Preds history.